United States now. Okay, so did the colonies at this time, after this treaty was ratified, acknowledge the King of Britain to be also the King of the United States now?
Okay, let me ask you just okay. The Magna Carta.
Insofar as I understand this document, yeah.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that when King John was recommuned with the Catholic Church, he said that he signed the Magna Carta under duress, and the Pope issued a papal bull nullifying the Magna Carta. So the general population in England falsely believed that the Magna Carta had legal authority ever. When in reality, between King John and the governments, there's a papal bull, you can go look it up, that nullifies the Magna Carta. And it's in effect because the king who signed the Magna Carta admitted that he signed it under duress in order to get back into the fold of the church. So even though that the masses wrongly think and thought that the Magna Carta had any legal effect, effectively it didn't. So they don't care what the masses misinterpret. They care about the business relationships. And that's why when Lincoln came along thinking that America was free, and he's like, well, I don't need to substantiate the creation of money off of anything to do with what we did in the past. That's why they shot him in the head, even though he should have had the right to make his own money supply. On the
Well, my question
books.
wasn't about.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I understand your point. My question wasn't about the common public. My question was primarily. I didn't specify earlier, so that's my fault. But my question was primarily focused on: did the magistrates, in the basic sense of the term, magistrates of the United States, acknowledge the King of Britain to be King of the United States after the treaty was ratified?
No, nor did they need to.
Or why would they not need to if this is a part? If they're subordinate to him and their lands is under his jurisdiction?
It's a need to know basis.
But, well,
Yo,
they
yo,
would
real quick.
if
I'm
it
not.
It's
I'm not
gangster
defending.
shit. It's
Real quick. I'm
gangster
not
shit.
defending on this,
if
but why were we paying taxes to England at one point? Where in Massachusetts, the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which I'm from, they were like, no taxes without representation, and they rebelled and spilled all the tea into the bay. If we were
that was
completely
before.
independent,
That was before. Hang on,
oh, that was
I'm going to
before.
get confused if we digress to that. Yeah,
That was
the
18th
Boston Tea
century,
Party
I
was
thought.
no, that was a part of what led up to the, or was a part of the Revolutionary War.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
Um, what was I saying? You said your reply was need to know basis. That doesn't quite make sense out of my question, because if it is the case that this is a de jure binding legal precedent, right? If the United States is under the jurisdiction of King Britain and the magistrates of the United States knew this, then of course my next natural question is: did the magistrates of the United States acknowledge that?
Well, I don't know. They got King James Bible in every courtroom. I mean, they got it
Okay,
where it counts.
you
They
say
got
you
it
don't
where it
know.
counts. In my opinion, they have it where it counts, and that's why, like I'm saying, like
What
the
do you,
mass.
who's
What's up?
they when you say that?
The people in the know about the treaties regarding the proper treaties regarding the United States and Great Britain. I think it's one of the things that, like any sitting president, when they come into power with all the shit that they talk, you know what I mean? They get into the office and they're like, oh shit, there's this like outstanding agreements that are going on kind of like beneath the surface. Like I said, like, did the barons who lived in England, think that the Magna Carta gave them the right to do what they wanted to? Yes, they did. They thought the Magna Carta gave them like legal ability. And the problem with that is that the papal bull, just says that it's complete bullshit. It nullifies the Magna Carta, and yet the lay people were still going along with it, And so they didn't find the need to try to change them. They just made sure that the people who were in the higher echelons of power, they're the ones who pulled the final strings on things. That's my opinion, anyway. You know, it's just it's
Okay,
gangster.
I get
You
that.
need to know. Yep.
Okay, I get that. So that's why I'm like, well, I'm just inquiring of you to see how much you know, or see how coherent your view is on this. So, I mean, it would be an incomplete view of yours if you don't know that even if the first generations during immediately after the ratification of the Treaty of Paris, that if you don't know if the Magistrates of the United States didn't even acknowledge the King of Britain to be also the King of the U.S., that would be just at best a gap and an incomplete view of this.
Well, look at like there's a theory about like the War of 1812, right? When England came in and burned down the White House, and the theory being is that like the Congress was trying to pass a law that said no one in Congress could hold titles of nobility, and you know,
What document said that?
I believe I don't know the document, but there's a if we could look it up together, I guess. But there's a it was like a motion put in by Congress. And if you want, go dig it up. Where they were trying to make it the original 13th, I think, or it was an original um, offer of one of the amendments was that no member of Congress would hold titles of nobility. And the theory is that England came in and said, no, you can't do that. And that's why there's like another theory that every esquire or attorney is holding a position of a title of nobility. And that's why only
You said no member of
attorneys,
Congress, right?
I think it's Congress. Yeah, I think that was, I don't know if that's the wording, but I believe it's the wording. But it was no member of Congress shall hold title of nobility. And England came in and burned down the White House because they were like, no, 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 no. We control what the fuck is going on here. But I'm not too sure I could, I don't think any like, my point being is that like the lay people, even the people in Congress and in government at the time, maybe were not privy to the fact of this outlook, but there was like a silent almost agreement that like one of the best ways to have your enemy stop fighting you is tell them that they won. So like, if you can convince them that they won the war, they're not in a war anymore, they're not going to fight. And so like and I
Oh,
think
you're
that's
talking about the Constitution. That's what the Google AI just pulled up when I typed in War of 1812. No members of Congress shall hold titles of nobility. You talk about the unratified amendment.
yeah, there was an amendment, yeah, and it wasn't ratified because they came in and burned the fucking White House down. Because they didn't want to have because the theory being that the crown wanted to have control over Congress, and they did so by having people with titles of nobility, and that's where people look at the term esquire, being an attorney, as a title of nobility, and that's why most members of Congress are lawyers.
And you mentioned this because that's an instance uh, a
The instance of the
foreign
disconnect,
magistrate
no, the disc.
trying to interfere with the machinations of the federal government of the U.S.
Well, all I'm trying to highlight is
Trying to
the
control.
well, like the difference between what lay people thought was going on versus what was really going on. So, like, even though
Yeah, yeah,
the masses may have thought they won the war, may have thought this and the other thing, there was like a quiet group of bankers that understood otherwise.
yeah. So regardless of the masses, because
And
I never talked
the
about the
reason we
masses.
got to this in the first place was just the idea that, like, in conclusion, was just to bring it up to speed, is that we're entering into a stage where we may be free of all of those contracts. And that's why Trump is on a tirade right now against the world and even against Great Britain and against, like, is that there's no authority on their behalf anymore. Like, it's like when you finally like paid your debt and you're done. And like that's where it's even though in our case it's like through default. It's like when you're freed of your bankruptcy or something, you can go get a credit card again, and you're not restrained by your old poor credit score. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. So I was asking you about the Treaty of Paris, and then you brought our attention to the Magna Carta to make a point of analogy, and so um, I guess to tie it into Trump, I guess. Um,
Well, it started
have
off
you
why.
heard him?
Okay, go on.
Have you heard him publicly warn people the same way JFK did in his public address titled "The President and the Press"?
Is that the address where it's like there's a secret group or whatever type of thing? Is that?
Yeah, monolithic conspiracy, like in painful detail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think right now Trump is like. I mean, I'm totally on conspiracy street, but like I just think Trump is instituting. I think some of like our newfound freedom, and I think like in the sense of being free of the constraints of our debt relations with England. And I think that like he's operating the thing versus actually trying to explain it. So like I think JFK was killed for like he was I think any president would have dreamed for the moment that Trump has right now in as far as debt freedom. And I think like he's actually at liberty to create a new currency or create a new way forward. Whereas I think before, like during JFK's time and Lincoln's time, he wasn't free to create his own like unbacked funds. You know what I mean? Like he like I think Trump may be the
I get
first
it. I get
president
you.
that's not constrained, and that's why we have this. I just think that we have a new money change happening. Because if you also look into every 70 years, roughly as a country, so like
Well, the
we
reason
have
I
it.
doubt this, the reason I strongly doubt this, is because I've never heard him say anything remotely close to like what I can quote here right now from JFK back in 1961. If I remember correctly, he was murdered in 1963, right? JFK.
But do you know about like Executive Order 11116 or some shit like that from him? Do you know about that?
JFK.
Yeah.
I don't recognize it in detail.
Okay, yeah. He tried to I bring up JFK in that way because he tried to create his own money supply. He wanted to get free. He was
Yeah.
going to make his and when he tried to do that, it's like the gangsters were like, "Dude, you can't do that. You have to pay the money and the money that we've been doing it." And he's like, "I could just create my own money." And they were like, "Take him out." Same
Right.
thing with
So
Lincoln. Same thing
that
with Lincoln.
right. So that's
And
a
think of
part
it
of my
like this.
skepticism.
Think of it. Okay, well, hold on real quick, and just put it into context. Like symbolically, they shot at Trump, but they didn't get him. So they shot at Trump, but they didn't get him. They killed Lincoln. They killed
Did they?
JFK. They shot at Trump, but they didn't kill him. I mean, I'm not going to get into like conspiratoriality about because let's say it was all fake. It's even still it's symbolic. They shot him and they didn't get him, but they shot JFK and they shot Lincoln. And I'm saying to you that like I think this is almost symbolically, if we're going to be all Illuminati about it, this is telling you that we're free of those old constraints. They don't have the authority like they did.
Well, if it's a symbol, then he's a part of this deceptive symbol because he
Yeah,
himself would know
welcome to
he
the
was
show,
God.
brother. Welcome to the show, brother.
Right. So then he wouldn't be in the same category as Lincoln or JFK then.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, I don't. I'm not going to get into who's what. I just don't. I think that there's more going on than just like the Illuminati versus the world. But I think the Illuminati's got their own problems, and I think I think there's something interesting going on. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I
So
think
JFK said this, and it's not just for you, but it's he said this. So he said the very word secrecy, quote unquote, is repugnant in a free and open society, And when we are as a people inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers and excessive unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by limiting its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation. Our traditions do not survive with it, and there is a very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it is in my control, and no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war, or it imposes the self discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means, by expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system that has a It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. This is the last paragraph. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned. No rumor is printed. No secret is revealed. It conducts.
I think I think he's in a different role, man. You know, like, I think they're, it's kind of like, like he learned, like, let's say, because JFK, he says, like, they have to conceal this monolith that we're up against conceals more than it reveals, right? And shit like that, right? And I just think, like, in some weird way, there's been an effort to use that strategy in an attempt to help liberate our country also. So, like, for instance, like my theory of Trump invading Iran to take out the CIA Israeli narco state that it created and installed, like, if that's true, then, like, Trump potentially is in the process of, under their cover, even under the cover of working with these people, he's destroying their whole fucking network, of like,
Aisha,
'cause I happen to think Iran is the boogeyman that Israel created for itself. But what's up?
Aisha,
I mean, that's a romantic
when you
notion.
look
How
at
do you
what
actually
Trump,
conceal that
I'm
from
pretty fucking romantic,
the
bro, if
other
you
player?
couldn't tell. Pretty romantic.
Aisha,
But what
but
sense
when you
does that
look at
make?
what
How do you
Trump did
conceal that
with
from the
Hillary,
major players involved in that?
Gregory, don't you hear
Yo,
me?
there's too many people talking at once.
I had a question for Aisha. If look at what Trump did with Hillary, with all the fraudulent thingies behind the back doors in the money system. Basically, he's revealing the methods what they are abusing.
Yeah, I mean that's what. Yeah, he, like he said, I think he said it during one of their debates, was he was like, "Hey, talking about the campaign funding and the tax breaks," and he's like, "Hey, he's like, all your people do it too." I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it, and I think it is to certain levels. Like, yeah, he is showing the normies that, like, something is up. That there's, like, an elite group of dickheads that have been robbing our country. Like, I mean, look at the fraud that Doge, let's say, exposed. Like, that's on par with Kennedy's speech to some degree, because, like, he's actually showing the fraud. He's showing the bank accounts of the monolith. Now, most people consider Trump to be just a part of the monolith. I don't yet. I don't buy that yet. And if he is a part of the monolith, like the Illuminati, it's for the better of our society. Like, I don't necessarily demonize the Illuminati either.
Thing else that speaks for Trump in his first term. He was one president that took America out of UN Agenda 21, which was signed in 1992 by 185, 58 countries. He took you guys out. Biden put you straight back in.
Well, what
So
gets me
that's
is,
another thing.
dude, look at it like this. Like, dude, I'll take whatever Trump's given out in a certain sense, like in the sense that fluoride is being removed from our water supply. Kissinger, they have outsourced everything that we manufacture in the United States overseas, and they've made it like, so that everyone gets subsidized if they get all these shit from other overseas. Well, Trump's ending all that. We're out of the World Health Organization. I mean, this dude
Okay,
is
but he's
doing
not.
so much shit behind the scenes,
Okay,
but
but
the
he's not
news is
conveying.
not reporting it. What's up?
Okay, but he's not. But he's not exposing. Right? But he's not exposing the same things that JFK did, like I just quoted. Right?
No, he.
It's one thing. It's one thing to wrap some band-aids around some wounds that you and your people have inflicted. It's another thing to actually heal the wound.
Well, the first thing you need to do is realize you have an injury, and like that's what we're doing. That's what America's doing right now. Is being like, wait a minute, we mean we're spending all this money on giving condoms to fucking Afghan transsexuals? Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So like if like, first off, we've got to find out that wait a minute, people need to be informed that hey, our country isn't doing it's sick. It needs to be healed. And that's where, you
Right,
need
of
to get the
course. But my
person.
point is that right, of course. But my point is, he's not actually healing the wound. Like the things that are being mentioned, the several things that have been mentioned to try and like basically vindicate him is not sufficient. He's not exposing
That's
the part of the issue, like I just quoted JFK doing.
yeah, I mean great. I just think well, I mean and right, and that's why Trump has JFK's fucking brother's son, his nephew in his administration. I think it's almost a little apropos and kind of a wink and a nod kind of territory. Uh, the fact that he has a Kennedy on board, and he's in control of the health department, which is like,
Right.
I don't know, man. I just think these things are good things. I mean, granted, he's not making any radical speeches, but I think I'd rather have someone like if you look at it like JFK was like saying that as a form of protest because he was powerless and he got shot in the head for it. Whereas Trump is not fucking necessarily talking like that, but he's doing shit. He's actually in power. He doesn't need to say, I'm going to do this. He just is doing these things, like pulling us out of the World Health Organization, like fucking, wanting to end us, making NATO pay, making these people pay more. Like, he's
But doing
negotiating, he's
nothing
doing
about
all
the
those
dollar
aspects.
and the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why what I'm interested in is like I just said to you, what would the dollar and the Federal Reserve have to do with an complete rearrangement of currency, though? Like, if we move into like if you look up every 70 years, the United States changes its money supply. Did you?
I mean,
Are
first and
you?
foremost, like he was asked, he professed to
you
be a Christian, and then was exposed that he never even asked for forgiveness ever in his life. He was an
that's fine.
antichrist,
That's another
and
topic. But
and and displaying all the signs of the occult every day, and not exposing any of this, and saying nothing about the tyrant banking dynasties.
I mean, dude, like, what do you want him to do? Come out and tell you the Earth's flat?
There's no evidence. That's the point. All this indication about
Evidence for what?
relatively
What I'm talking.
minute things, and there's no evidence about the majors.
Well, I'm sorry. Do you think taking away some of the vaccines isn't major?
Again, wrapping a band-aid around a wound. Sure,
No,
you're not so you cease injecting people with poison. Sure, but with all the hundreds of other things still going on that are not
right,
stopped, and
right,
the
but you understand it's a
and the greatest worst part of the issue being these tyrant banking dynasties and saying nothing about them, not even saying anything about them, let alone doing anything.
And not only that, he's creating a surveillance state of the United States. And that should worry you. He might be doing a lot of good things, but on the other hand, he's tying all your rights on your back.
I get that, and I mean, I have nothing. There's nothing for me to say. I just other than like Fidel. I think history shall absolve me. But I just think that like Trump is doing the Anthony Fauci effect on some of the worst players in the game, like Israel, etc. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that he's parading them around. Like, these are my best friends, just like he did to Anthony Fauci. And then what happened there? You know, Fauci's getting hung up on fucking. Yeah, I just think it's interesting
Yeah,
that
but Isa,
I'm rooting for my
but when you
boy.
take out Iran, you're giving Israel free ball for the big promised lands they have been fighting for
Right, and we're
centuries.
also, it gives us the right to never fund them again.
You don't need to destroy Iran to just stop giving Israel things.
I get it, but I think that, like, if Iran is the CIA's personal state and Trump is taking it out, then he's like fucking up the network of the fucking octopus that's been fucking up our country.
Well,
Like,
why
I
not
think that
just stop giving materials and other assets to this ridiculous pest that was made by the Rothschild dynasty called Israel?
I think it's diplomacy in the Anthony Fauci procedure. Is
Then why
he's
not do
walking.
that with Iran then?
I think just
It's incoherent.
yeah, I know that it seems incoherent. That's why I said history shall absolve me. You know, like I'm saying, like I think that things will come to pass that like my reading of the tea leaves will be correct. But
Okay.
I understand it, like, and I think for almost like, you know, sometimes I often just think even like I'm reluctant to even say any of this because I want it to work. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily need to. I think it's going to happen anyway, whether
Yeah,
we
but you
enjoy the show
forgot
or not.
David in the past already won from Goliath. What makes you think he's going to win now?
No, I think Trump is David against the Goliath of the fucking state
I'm
of
not so
Israel.
sure about that.
I get it. I understand people don't agree with me. I'm just that's how I see it. That's the way like it's to me there's no other and you know it might just be a play, you know what I mean? It might be a double Protestant Christian double Jew bluff. I don't know. But the point is that it's like this is what it looks like is coming down the pipe. Be it real or not, be it manufactured or not. I just think that like there is going to be like a restructuring of the dollar. I think America will enter into a golden age, man. I think the world will, you know.
So,
But
given my criticism, I think people are uh, primarily driven by this exhaustion and this hope, but placing their hope in the wrong thing. Um, uh, too charitably interpreting particular instances and not considering that not necessarily everyone, and not necessarily you, but many are not considering that these minor improvements relative to the majors, these major ailments in the world order, remedying, excuse me, these minor ailments relative to the major ailments or deficiencies in the world order is just um, to sweeten up the appearance, right? You're a part of it. You're in the category of people. I talk about Trump. Trump's in the category of people who are these wicked antichrist tyrants. But again, Hegelian dialectic, as many are in here are already familiar with, you present yourself to these people you're trying to control the minds of as a benevolent uh, uh, assistant, a helper to the people, and you help them in this minor thing and that minor thing, but never actually remedy the major or the heart, the root cause of the ailments and
you
deficiencies
ever
of the
see
world order.
Trump do that thing about the snake? He does a little
Well
bit
put.
about the snake that bites him. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you ever seen
Yeah,
that. He was doing that on the early on about how like, you know, and I always wondered like how fucking, you know, like just to join you in your skepticism is like the idea that how fucked up would it be if Trump's, you know, been using that whole speech the whole time about, you know, trying to help the snake and yet he was the snake. You know what I mean? Like the idea that he is
yeah.
that thing, you know what I mean? Which is I get it. Like, you know, all that I mean that for me just makes me pump more popcorn, put more popcorn because like I just think it's this shit is fucking crazy. I mean, nobody really can kind
I
of
mean, ancient tyrants have
influence
done this
this either way.
before. They made themselves more or less
No doubt.
pleasant
The
and
acts.
attractive to the people, while never actually trying to resolve most major ailments and deficiencies in the order
See, but
of degeneration.
that's what's got me though, bro, is that he is kicking them right in the nuts. And I know that sounds like, fucking bullshit to some folks. But like I've been watching this shit for 20 fucking years. I've been invested in fucking Palestine and all kinds of shit. And I'm telling you, Trump's the only candidate in my lifetime that I ever fucking agree with. And I think there's something different. There's something very savvy. I just think he's playing the role perfectly. He understands the term capacity. Like I think he's like, let's say, like take for instance like some of that Q shit, right? Like, there's a lot of that Q stuff. And like, when like there's one instance where the keyboards asked for Trump to say tippy top. I don't know if you're are you familiar with that? I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like briefly, like like the Q boards asked Trump to say the term tippy top. Long story, it's like, they were like, if you're legit, get Trump to say tippy top. Anyway, Trump goes on at the Easter something 2018, and he says we keep the White House in tippy top shape. So everyone in the Q position was like, oh my God, this is crazy because all this information was coming out in Q, especially about Epstein and all that shit was like, coming out through the Q boards. And so one of the reporters asks Trump, you know, well, what do you know about Q? And he's like, I don't know anything about them, except I hear they don't like pedophiles. And like, it's like in the capacity as the president of the United States, he's not supposed to know any conspiratarded shit. He's supposed to be like a Lego man. In the capacity as the president of the United States, he is a businessman, full stop. That's it. But he alludes to the fact that he's aware of the conspiracy by saying that, by asking the question, they don't like pedophiles much though, do they? Do you know what I mean? Like he's hinting that he knows what's going on, but he's in the capacity as the president for the rest of the world to listen to. So he's got to be generic. And that to me is fucking like, mwah, like, because I can see that. Anyone who else who fucking half a brain could fucking or would know anything about the Q shit sees that. But anyone who doesn't know is completely kept in the dark, which is okay.
George Bush Jr. did the same thing at a UN speech.
What did George Bush Jr. do that's anything like Donald Trump did?
So immediately after, like within 30 days after, not 30 days, but like less than a year after 9/11, he gave a speech at the UN and he said, "Let us not tolerate any outrageous conspiracy theories shifting the blame from those who are truly responsible." That's what he said. So he's aware of the conspiracy. He's aware of the controversy that the public is talking about, participating in about the conspiracy. He did the same thing.
Right, and he's shitting on it, telling everyone not to agree with it. Trump has never done that, except like with this. The
No, he
only
didn't
thing he could,
say. He didn't explicitly distinguish between him being the suspect or him being an exposer. What he said was, "Let us not tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories that shift the blame away from the true perpetrators." That's what he said.
okay, but what's the point?
Right? That the content of that quote could be easily applied to the outrageous conspiracy theory that shifts the blame away from the true perpetrators, which is the mainstream narrative. He could be alluding to that. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He did the same thing.
I mean, but at the time, nobody was thinking. There wasn't any like mass movement trying to condemn.
Yes, there was. That's why he said that at
At
the
the,
time. Yes, there was.
I I don't know. I mean, when did he say that? Like what date? You know?
It was. I can look it up. I don't remember. It was less than a year after. I remember the clip I saw.
Well, I guess like the only difference I could point in regards to him saying that versus Trump is that I mean, if you want to read it the way you did, then I guess, you could say you could triple, double jump back and see which way he's trying to point people. But I think he's trying to keep people onto the official 9/11 story. Whereas I think Trump has kind of alluded to the idea that conspiracy may have some truth to it versus what Bush was saying. Because I think Bush was trying to get everyone back onto we got to invade Afghanistan, and I think Bush is in a whole nother league just because he was in cahoots with Cheney and the Project for the New American Century and all that comes with 9/11. So, but and what I see with Trump is just the idea that you know, uh, there's a distinct difference between Trump and those guys, in my opinion.
I mean,
Trump
just
is more
saying
like
they don't like pedophiles. Sure, that's so what? I mean, that's a very small modicum thing to appeal to. The vast majority of people don't like pedophiles, except these tyrannical antichrists.
right, but like specifically the Q shit was pointing out, like Jeffrey Epstein is only in the zeitgeist nowadays because of the Q movement. Like the
Sure,
only thing, like one of the only reasons that is even palpable or even came about is because of what happened on the Q shit and like the push for
Oh,
that and the
dude, that was
exposure
way
for that.
before Q.
But you're
Q
gonna get some
was
folks.
the psyop to take over that narrative. It was way
I mean,
before
bro,
that,
you can't come
Pizzagate
in
and all
and
that
you
shit.
can't just come in and interrupt them in the mid sentence. What the fuck? What are you doing?
You could. I mean, the idea was like
Oh,
I've
not
heard
good,
the
bro. That's how
argument.
the shit show starts, dude. I got Greg, you, and this guy now. That's the shit show soup we're about to make.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that enlightening comment.
We could call it
Well,
Jeremy's
it was
kitchen.
enlightening. I wouldn't even spoke up if you didn't interrupt someone. So I mean, don't interrupt people, please, in the middle of their sentence.
okay, so just make the point clear. Like I get your notion about that comment. Like I get it, but it's just a very small detail and a very weak thing to try and like nudge to it. I get the way you're interpreting it, but by that pattern of reasoning, George Bush Jr. was exposing conspiracy by telling people don't tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories that shift the blame away from the true perpetrators. Like by that pattern of reasoning, then interpret that quote from George Bush Jr. as him repudiating the outrageous conspiracy theory that shift the blame away from the perpetrators, such as what the mainstream media did.
How you
Issa,
like the moderation, dude?
I'm gonna have
Fucking
to,
bitch. Yo,
dude.
no, because
Issa,
this
you can't do that, bro. Hold on, man. Issa,
is sorry. This dude's talking all fucking. I'll unmute him, but just Jesus Christmas, dude.
dude, don't do that, bro. What are you doing?
I was gonna
You just
unmute him.
did several mod
That's flagrant mod
violations, bro.
abuse.
Yeah.
Flagrant
So
mod
what?
abuse. I didn't even know he was
So
a mod
kick me
too.
What
out.
you mean? So
Kick me
what?
out.
Okay, so anyways, so now I have to abuse mod buttons just to try to suppress my voice. So again, it greatly vexes
Shut
him
the
that I'm
fuck
using
up.
his pattern. He's blurting through me every time. I want to make sure that people want to hear what I'm saying, at least whoever the one person is, to hear it clearly without him trying to prevent me from saying this. I want to finish what I want to say. That's just the fact. So he's greatly vexed by me using his pattern of reasoning, his pattern of interpretation, because he's interpreting the quote. Right? If you don't acknowledge that you're interpreting messages, you're just being dishonest. Everyone involved is interpreting messages. That's a truism. That's not debatable, right? That's not the issue. That's not an issue. Interpretation is not inherently erroneous or flawed. That's not the issue. I'm using his pattern of interpretation for the Trump quote to get to the conclusion, well, this proves or somewhat indicates at least, that's the most conservative way to say his position charitably, that he's agreeing with QAnon and that he's against the pedophiles and all this other antichrist bullshit. That same pattern of reasoning can be applied to this quote from George Bush Jr., because the content of the quote is, like you've heard me say, let us not tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories that shift the blame away from the true perpetrators. So then George Bush is aware of the outrageous conspiracy theory that is the official narrative, and he's actually against that. And he's exhorting the public to actually scrutinize the media and yada yada yada. The same pattern of interpretation he's using for the Trump quote used on George Bush Jr.'s quote to come to the unwelcome conclusion that he doesn't welcome, that we know better than.
It's not what you're saying that pisses me off. It's that you think that you're connecting like my chain of logic to what you're saying, which is not what I'm saying at all, dude. Like, there's a complete difference between what George Bush said. I understand your attempt to reach at this, but like they're two different, very different positions on quote unquote conspiracy. Like George Bush is saying at the time, after our country is reeling from 9/11 and we're about to go to fucking, he's like drumming up the war to go to Afghanistan, and he says let's not outrage, be tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories, because he's literally drumming up the war effort to go into Afghanistan based off 9/11. The difference is that he's saying that he's don't even entertain outrageous conspiracy theories, right? Where Trump is alluding to the fact that this crazy group of QAnon people don't like pedophiles, which is way more supportive of a group of people who are very conspiratorial, versus George Bush condemning the conspiratory movement in favor of his going to a war with Iraq. Now you're trying to allude that you could interpret George Bush's statement as some kind of like wink and a nod to go fucking look into conspiracy theories. But it's completely out of context if you're going to look at it in that way. So
Okay,
there's no
so you're
correlation.
doing my point. You're making my
Oh my
point.
God. You're really retarded,
You,
dude.
you
Sorry.
you just made my point. See what he just did, and what he doesn't realize is then he, of course, he recognizes how weak the appeal to just that quote in isolation is, which is my point. Then alludes to other facts to try and build a stronger inductive case or even a deductive case to prove what he thinks is the truth, and not actually leading to the unwelcome conclusions he doesn't want to
Is this just a
concede to.
one-on-one? Like, do you
That's
guys have a
great.
one versus one right now, or is this like a conversation that anyone can join?
Anyone can join.
It's
Just
it's
Greg
it,
would
it,
like
it's
to
been
recap what just happened for
it's
people.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like
Yeah.
I think like if I can even like
So
say something, I've been
before you
listening.
say that, let me just make this clear. So what he did, what you're doing is then you recognize this quote in isolation, just like your Trump quote, is not at all sufficient. It's a very weak body of evidence to try and get to your conclusion. So then what you do is you try to appeal to mention other facts that build up a stronger indication to what is the truth, at least what you think is the truth, and
Right?
not
It's
having
called
to
Gregory. It's
just
called
settle for
wrecking
it,
your
and not
premise.
having to just settle for it, and not having to just settle for an unwelcome conclusion. What you
Gregory,
don't
just know that
do, what you
the
don't
feeling
do,
you're
what
feeling
you don't
is getting
do,
wrecked,
what you
right?
don't do. I wasn't done. That's why I'm
Yeah,
repeating
we
myself.
know, dude. You never shut the fuck up, dude. You think
Yeah,
people
I
give a
wasn't
shit about
done.
what you have to say, dude?
Okay, so again, just trying to suppress my voice again. What you don't
Yeah, dude,
do
stop. You
is
sound like some
consistently do the
aristocratic
same thing.
crackhead, dude.
Once again, he's just trying to suppress my voice. So why
Hey,
would I not get
bro,
Try
I
frustrated?
just
Anyone
harder,
would get
you
stop.
little
frustrated at this.
bitch.
Just stop engaging him, Issa. Like, please. Like, I don't want to hear it. When Greg starts doing this shit,
Sorry,
nobody
I'm
wants
sorry.
to
I
hear
gotta
that.
just.
So
y'all are
just stop
crazy.
engaging him,
This is
bro.
right
Just
on the heels of Black
let's let
History
him
Month. You
finish.
guys
Hold
are
on, I got to
acting
mute
ridiculous.
fresh real quick. Hold on. Let's let Greg finish, and then we can move on or some shit.
Okay, so what I'm trying to finish, what he does not do is consistently do that in light of Trump. He won't just let the one quote stand. He'll let the one quote stand for Trump, but won't let the one quote stand for George Bush Jr. You got to consider this in light of these other facts, but then doesn't do that consistently for Trump. It's not the same standard of
Good
scrutiny. It's
job. You sound
hypocritical.
like
It's
such a woman,
inconsistency.
dude.
So, bro,
Sound like such
Issa,
a dumb woman.
come on, dude. Let's just let
Yeah,
him
dude.
finish this thing so we can move on, and this will be over with.
So
Like,
the
don't you
last
want this
sentence that
to
he just
end? Everyone wants this to end right now. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Greg.
I
Finish
could
up.
just hear Gregory like complaining about his gift card
Issa,
at fucking
please,
TJ
bro.
Maxx or something, you know?
my God.
Please, dude. Everyone wants this to
The
end as
last
quickly as possible. Just go ahead, Greg.
the last sentence was, but he doesn't do that consistently, right? For Trump. And in light of these other facts that I mentioned about Trump, he'll still cling to this conclusion that he obviously prefers for some reason, that he's actually doing good when he's just at best handling minor things while neglecting and what he cannot be ignorant of, cannot be in that aspect of the world order and be ignorant of these things. He's handling, the vaccines, oh, da 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 da. taking us out of WHO, but not at all exposing the tyrant baking dynasties. Not
Yeah,
doing anything
I
about it.
feel like I'm in TJ
That's
Maxx
great. All
behind
right. You
somebody
want to keep this
complaining.
going? Issa, you want to keep this going? Are you
I
done,
don't
Greg?
care. I don't
Greg,
care.
are you done? I know you don't care,
You hear me?
dude.
I feel like he's
It's
returning
obvious you
shoes
don't
at
give a
TJ
fuck,
Maxx.
bro.
I gotta wait. You know, I'm like, God damn, hurry up.
Okay, so moving on.
This is what
Moving
Trump
on. We're
supporters have to
moving
do.
along to a new topic. New topic. Good talk. That was a good talk, guys. Great to hear from you both.
This ain't over, Jeremy.
No, it's over, dude. We're going on to a new topic. Fuck that.
What? Fucking Horizons? Stop.
Anything but this. You want to hear Greg do this and you do what you're doing?
No, I
Go
want
back
someone
and
to
listen
chime
to
in
that
and
shit.
fucking reinforce my fucking take on this.
Yeah, well, you guys don't let anyone else get on the fucking conversation anyway, do you?
Nobody
Oh,
sorry, we're American. We
you
don't speak that
dance.
Chinese shit. You're talking to Australian Chinese. I couldn't understand you, man.
Yeah, well, I did ask politely if anyone else is available to get in the conversation, or is it just a
Oh yeah, come on in.
one-versus-one? Yeah.
You're good, brother.
And then,
You're good.
Gregory just had to like waffle on and repeat himself 10 times. I mean, the mainstream narrative about what Trump was pointing out about QAnons and the pedophilia, I mean, that's just common knowledge. He wasn't pointing out anything conspiratorial or anything different than anyone already knew. It's just like he was just rabbiting and parroting the mainstream narrative. I don't know how you could look into it like he was saying something, some sort of code word, right?
No, I was seeing it like he said, like, when they, in the capacity as a president, let's say, like, for instance, in context, I brought up this thing about the tippy top thing, where like the people from these certain internet things that were asking if Trump, they could get him to say tippy top. And like, and like to just confirm that there was some validity to what they were saying, some of the serious shit. And they, eventually, Trump ended up on the White House, whatever, said that they keep the White House in tippy top shape, which kind of was a wink and a nod to people who were paying attention in 2017 that he was kind of aware of what was going on online, right?
Do you know how
So,
many times,
so hold on. So 1 second. All right, okay, I got it. Hold on 1 second. So come, fast forward to when he's sitting at the town hall and the lady asks him, "So what do you think about these QAnon people?" He says like, "I don't know much about." He says, "I don't know much about them. I just know that they don't like pedophiles." And all I was trying to say is that, as generic as that might be, right? It's at the time the Q shit was introducing what Jeffrey Epstein was doing to everybody, right? Like all of that information was on the Q boards, like fucking in 2017. So all of that has since come to the zeitgeist 10 years after the fact. So, but at the time, nobody was in on it. It was kind of like, and so Trump kind of just saying, I hear they don't like pedophiles, was the idea that like he was alluding to a pro side to the Q movement. Like there was something beneficial there. And that's all I was saying was that like he's like playing this weird game of capacity. As the president, he's not going to know about stuff like that. But in his private capacity, he can freely think whatever he wants. But in like this leg
Pedophiles aren't that smart though.
in the office, that's what I'm saying. Smart as fuck.
No, they're not smart.
How so?
What do you mean? How so?
Well, I think it is smart. How do you think it's not smart?
you
To be a
name us
pedophile?
one smart pedophile. Name one.
I couldn't hear your
You can't do it.
question. I couldn't hear your question.
Name one smart pedophile. One smart pedophile. You can't do it, can you? Because there aren't any.
A smart pedo. I'm not. That's weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
obviously,
well,
like
you're
some.
just saying that like pedophiles are smart. They're fucking like
I
you're
didn't say
totally
that.
wrong if you think they're smart.
So you're saying Trump is a pedophile? I said what he said was smart, so therefore all Trump's. Is that what you're getting at? Because I said what Trump said is smart, and you think Trump's a pedophile? Is that your illusion by that statement? Hello?
Yeah, Trump's a
Do you
pedophile.
think?
Are you
So
asking me?
You think that
yeah, whoever said
he's
so.
probably
Like
a
I was just trying to
pedophile,
draw it
no?
together.
Is he not a pedophile? You
Yeah,
said
no, I
how many
mean that.
times did he go to Epstein's island?
No, I don't think he's a pedophile. No, I think he's going to be on the records as one of the people in the FBI that reported it early on. But we'll see.
How many times did he go to Epstein Island?
I don't think he did, but I don't know.
No.
No. Yeah, I don't think Trump is a pedophile. Yeah, I don't think he is.
He sure likes to talk about his daughter in strange ways.
I heard he
Just
was
saying.
on the island, bro. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
No, I don't think
He
Trump ever
doesn't
went to.
like gay people, or at least he like unless they scripted him to act that way. Usually he acts on impulse. Uh, and most of like his stuff on TV seemed to be kind of like along with that plot line of his characteristic. And like I remember on The Apprentice that one time when the black dude uh got like called out for being gay, he was like, "So and so, is that true? Are you gay?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're fired." You know, it was like that quick. He didn't even hesitate to think to fire the gay guy. So I don't know. I mean, unless he's a really, really good actor, maybe he's like preferential against gays. Maybe it is all a hoax. Who knows? It is a big mind fuck though, for sure. Because I don't see him like as a good actor, uh, in any sense or form. You know, he's like, but he is really impulsive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pro-spiricist, so I just think there's like more good to be happening than, let's say, bad. And I think like America is kind of like possibly, or the United States is like free of these encumbrances of the past, so that we might be able to like renegotiate like a better future for our country. And I think like in order to do that, we need to go through all of the myths and all of the the messed up stuff. I think even too what's fucked up, and I don't know for better or worse, but like it's like they've got to find all the fraud. They've got to find all the expenditures that don't exist, all the black money shit, and they've got to like control that shit so that they can come into this new money supply, lateralization of everything and the digitization of things.
You think it's
But
all about money? You don't think it's anything to do with religious stuff?
I don't know. I don't know if like I don't know. I'm interested in I'm interested what will affect, let's say, me and mine, in the sense of like, like economic, like the future of this country economically. And, I think that is going to be one of the more, it can be the blessing of the nation, or it can be the destruction of a nation. And I think we've
What
been getting
about like a
fleeced.
whole, like, what about the whole world finding out that like the U.S. dropped 2 Tomahawk missiles on a elementary school and killed, dozens of school children, and then we're our country's filled with people who may not have been like radicalized against us and like maybe thought they kind of understood, that the government's kind of corrupt, but people maybe aren't that bad. Well, now all of a sudden it's like a light switch changes and you've got all these people that are ready to kill you. Like, do you think that's a little bit more viable and reasonable of a threat than the financial system?
I mean, I think like the whole idea that we bomb nations and then they come here and try to destroy us is the CIA operation. And I think that Trump is kind of putting a boot in that shit. And I think that the same people who control the media are going to have everybody hating fucking, anyone who's kicking the shit out of these fuckers. And I just think that Trump has gone through the gauntlet, clearly, like, for the only argument to that is that it's a triple Jew double bluff to get you to hate, to get you to like Trump, right? But like, I don't know what the fucking truth is, but I see what Trump's doing as very antithetical to what I've observed the CIA, et cetera, do throughout its operation, or what I think and what I've learned it and think it to be its operations, which is like its drug network and its terrorist network. Like those are not organic things. You know what I mean? Like, anyone who thinks like Islam is radicalizing people and making them go do whatever. No, it's not Islam. It's fucking like CIA. It's propaganda that's making people behave like terrorists. It's not a religion. In fact, that's why the American Constitution, to some essence, is the compass for rationality, because you're not supposed to judge people based on their religion, right? But then you've also got like you're also not supposed to try to infiltrate and overthrow our government either. And I just think that Trump is, trying to make order out of the chaos that these people have put before us in an attempt to destroy our country and take our wealth overseas. Like, our country invaded Afghanistan in 2003, and then all of a sudden we have the iPhone in 2007 that all needs the lithium from Afghanistan. And like, it's like these are like, but the American people don't see any benefit of that. It's just rich corporations saw the benefit of the capturing of that the lithium. And you've got Dick Cheney making like, gets all the construction work in Iraq. And then you've got Osama bin Laden's father gets the construction contract for Iraq. And Trump comes out and says, "Hey, that's wrong." And then everyone's like, "He's a pedophile," and he's the one who fucking ratted out Jeffrey Epstein down in the eye. I mean, like, to me, it's like Trump is like a flat earther up against like the anti-flat earthers from hell that are just constantly doxing and arresting and calling his work and fucking trying to just tell everyone what a piece of shit he is so no one listens to what he says. I respect Donald Trump just for the simple fact that he's like a flat earther who's had to go through the gauntlet of being yelled at by anti-flat earthers. And I think anyone who hates Trump is falling for the propaganda from Globers against a good flat earther. That's what I think.
I mean, at this point, that's the only hope that's left, right? So I can understand attached to it.
Well, no, my hope lies in my understanding of my political protections and constitutional protections, my understanding of court in regards to my individual liberties. This is just an international economic front. And you're right, to some degree, it is like a last hope. And that's why I guess I dig it, like kind of, it's a movie. And like Trump is the fucking, I think, gonna be played out to be the hero that everyone hates until the very end. I just think it's by design. If it is an Illuminati movie, that's the script. And I'm here for it, man. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun.
Well, I mean, if you follow the timeline of the, New World Order, or at least that belief system, then I mean, yeah, somebody's got to come in and be the bad guy and disrupt the system, or there's got to be some kind of event. It's not just going to be like, well, we just kind of voted on this.
Well, I think of it like, let's say, if for often we've always said like the super elite are like astrotheologists, right? You savvy to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, astrotheology and all that. Like, and there's like a good quote of like, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And I just think like, if they are an astrotheological cult, then we have to enter into a new age, which is this golden age. So like they are forced to follow the edicts of the stars. And the stars say we have to enter into a golden age. And then all of a sudden we've got a president who loves nothing more than gold, and like the MAGA, which is like the magician. It's like every form of symbolism is fucking there. And then never mind the money and all. I mean, it's never ending. I mean, that's what makes me think like all of this is divine. God made all of this. It's like it's too crazy. Uh, but I think like, I'm a prospiracist, so I think we're gonna come out good on the other side. Like it's like, I always like it's like any of this is like that phrase about quantum mechanic or quantum physics was like, you know, the first sip of natural sciences, one becomes an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. And it's like in the same sense, like at the first sip of this like political science, you're like, oh my God, we're being ruled by satanic elite pedophiles. And then at the bottom of the glass, you're like, oh, wait a minute. The system actually preserves your liberties once you understand the ways of Christ. You know what I mean? It's really wild. And then like you've just got this alternative history. I don't know, bro. It's so fucking dope. I think if we understood more, then we wouldn't be afraid of what we don't understand. And we would realize we actually have quite the blessings, man. You know, we really do.